Stop. Don't blink. Look up from the screen for half a second and notice your jaw. It's tight. Your thumbs slowed down before you meant it to. That's the tell. I'm not starting where you expect, because this doesn't start with cheating or money or screaming matches. It starts with a Tuesday night. Same room, same light, same person breathing next to you. And the air shifts before you know why. I've seen this pattern too many times. And right now, your body already knows what I'm about to say. The room felt different all of a sudden. I'm standing in a kitchen that isn't mine, but it could be. Dishes half done. Someone's back turned. No fight. No tension you could point to. Just that quiet pressure in the chest that doesn't announce itself. This isn't me. That's the first thought. Then the second slips in without asking. This feels familiar. I watch people talk about groceries like they're negotiating a ceasefire. I feel something inside me turning, and I hate that part of me recognizes it. I care deeply, and at the same time I'm numb enough to miss what matters. The silence changed before the truth did. Here's what most people never notice. Marriages don't fall apart when love leaves. They fall apart when attention does. Not attention like flowers or compliments. Attention like witnessing. Like tracking the small internal shifts in the person you promised to keep seeing. Over 10 years, people evolve quietly. Identity doesn't explode. It drifts. And when one person keeps updating themselves internally, while the other keeps interacting with an old version, something corrosive forms. No one names it. They just feel misunderstood and don't know why. The cost is subtle at first. Conversations shorten, jokes don't land, touch becomes functional. And by the time it's obvious, it's already old. Some men, some women, they believe commitment means stability. That once you choose each other, the work slows down. That belief feels comforting. It's also wrong. Stability without curiosity is decay with better lighting. I've watched people protect the structure of marriage while starving the experience of it. The consequence is resentment that doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up as sarcasm, as forgetting details, as not asking the follow-up question. The cost compounds, because resentment remembered is heavier than anger expressed, and once it settles, it doesn't leave cleanly. But here's the part that tightens the loop. Unmet needs rarely announce themselves clearly. They disguise as preferences, as moods, as "I'm just tired." Over a decade, those needs get negotiated down instead of met. You stop asking because asking didn't work the first few times. You stop explaining because explaining made you feel needy. And the other person doesn't refuse you. They simply don't see the signal anymore. This is the moment most people never notice. The moment you start editing yourself for peace. The irreversibility hides here, because every edit teaches your nervous system that being fully seen is unsafe. There was a quiet second, and everything clicked. The marriages that survive aren't the ones without conflict. They're the ones where conflict is allowed to update the map. The ones that fail are frozen in an old agreement that no longer fits the people living inside it. And here's the stance that makes people uncomfortable. Loyalty without honesty is just prolonged avoidance. Say it for me if you felt that. You can love someone and still slowly abandon them by not letting them meet who you're becoming. I don't like how accurate this is, but listen closely. Around year 7 to 10, something predictable happens. Life pressure peaks, careers harden, bodies change, parents age, dreams get delayed or quietly buried. Each person enters a private negotiation with themselves about who they are allowed to be now. And they don't always invite their partner into that room, not out of malice, out of exhaustion. The consequence is parallel lives under one roof, shared logistics, separate interiors. The cost is intimacy that feels performative. And when intimacy turns into a role, desire follows it out the door. And right when you think it's over, it isn't. Because the most dangerous factor isn't distance, it's silent resentment. I'm naming it once so you can feel it land. Silent resentment isn't anger, it's grief with no witness. It's the accumulation of moments where you felt alone while technically not alone. Over time, it becomes a lens. Everything the other person does passes through it and comes out distorted. Neutral comments feel critical. Absence feels intentional. The irreversibility shows up when forgiveness feels like self-betrayal. Here's the false belief people cling to. If it was really broken, I'd know. No. If it's really broken, you normalize the fracture. You adapt. Humans are incredible at adapting to emotional lack. That's not strength. That's survival. And survival mode can look calm, productive, even loving from the outside. Inside, it's a slow suffocation, like living in a house where one window is always closed and you stop remembering fresh air. I could feel something inside me turning again when I realized this isn't about blame. It's about pattern recognition. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. I can't unsee it. I watch hands not reach anymore. I watch people scroll instead of speak. I watch the jaw tighten when a name is mentioned. This is the part you hide. The mundane shame of wanting more from the person you promised forever to. The heavy silence sits there, not dramatic, just thick enough to change how you breathe. I'm going to pause here, because if even one part of this felt like your life, your body is already ahead of your thoughts. And if you're still with me, the next part goes somewhere people don't like to look. Don't adjust your posture. Let your hands stay where they are. Notice the breath getting shallow again. That's not emotion, that's recognition. I'm picking up from the exact place people usually look away. And that's when the air shifted again, because the next layer isn't romantic, and it isn't dramatic, it's mechanical. It's about how people slowly stop being witnesses to each other and start being roommates with shared history. Here's the part that improves on rewatch. Marriages don't decay evenly. One person usually gets there first, not falls out of love first, wakes up first. They notice the mismatch before it has language. They feel lonely while still laughing at the same jokes. And because there's no obvious crime, they feel guilty for even noticing, this isn't me. That thought comes back, and then it mutates. I can't unsee this. That gap you feel, it's not absence, it's misalignment. Some people assume the problem is attraction. It's not. Attraction doesn't die from boredom. It dies from invisibility, from the sense that your inner world is no longer being tracked. Over 10 years, people develop entire emotional continents their partner has never visited. New fears, new ambitions, new griefs. And instead of saying you don't know me anymore, they say nothing. Or worse, they say I'm fine. That lie isn't malicious, it's efficient. And it slowly trains both people to stop asking better questions. The room felt different all of a sudden when I realized how often love gets replaced by management. Schedules, chores, responsibilities. Who's picking up who? Who forgot what? Efficiency becomes the currency, and efficiency kills curiosity. You stop wondering what the other person is thinking because you're too busy optimizing the day. The cost shows up later when there's finally time, and nothing comes to mind to say. That silence isn't peace, it's atrophy. Here's an emotional contradiction people hate admitting. You can feel safest with the person who makes you feel most alone. Safety in predictability, loneliness in depth. That's why leaving feels impossible and staying feels hollow at the same time, and that tension sits in the body. Chest tight, jaw locked, breath held just a second too long. This is the moment most people never notice. When comfort becomes a cage you defend. Some men are taught to translate emotional distance into logic. We're not fighting, so we're good. Some women are taught to translate emotional distance into self-blame. If I were easier, this would work. Both are wrong in different directions. The pattern doesn't care about gender, it feeds on silence. It grows when neither person wants to be the one who destabilizes the peace by telling the truth. And the longer it grows, the more dangerous honesty feels. And just when I thought it was done, it wasn't. Because here's the delayed realization that breaks people open. By the time resentment is conscious, the bond has already adapted around it. Like a bone healing wrong. You can still use the limb, you just can't forget the pain. This is why late conversations feel useless. Not because talking doesn't matter, because you're talking from inside a structure that was built to avoid this exact moment. I've watched couples try to fix this with gestures, trips, gifts, date nights. They help briefly, micro-relief. Then the choke returns. Because the core issue was never missing romance, it was missing permission. Permission to update the contract, to say, I'm not who I was when we started, and to hear, without punishment, neither am I. Without that exchange, every attempt at closeness feels like acting in a play you didn't write anymore. There's a sharp silence here, the kind where words would actually make it worse. That's because the most painful truth is this: love doesn't guarantee mutual growth. Two people can grow sincerely and still grow apart. Not because they failed, but because they stopped renegotiating reality together. The belief that real love just lasts dies hard. It should, but it still dies. Slowly, quietly. While everyone insists nothing is wrong. Here's the one sentence people quote back to me weeks later. Most marriages don't end. They expire. Not with a bang. With a series of missed check-ins that felt too small to matter at the time. That line stings because it's observationally precise, and because once you hear it, you start replaying moments, the half-listened answer. The phone picked up mid-conversation, the way you already knew what they were going to say, so you stopped listening for what they meant. I'm exhaling here. You probably are too. Heavy silence now, not sharp. This is where shame creeps in. The boring, private shame of scrolling next to someone you love because it's easier than risking another flat exchange. The shame of fantasizing about being known again, not by a new person, but by the same one. If only they'd look differently at you. This is the part people don't post about. And here's the stance that invites disagreement. Not all marriages are meant to be saved. Some are meant to be seen clearly. Clarity is the threat. Because clarity removes the excuse of confusion. Once you see the pattern, you can't blame timing or stress or phases anymore. You're left with a choice you don't want to name. Avoidance guarantees the return of the pattern, either here or with someone new. If even one part of this felt like your life, you and I are built from the same scars. That's not comfort. That's identification. Once you see this, it doesn't go away. The unforgettable part isn't the fights you remember, it's the conversations you never had because you didn't have the language yet. Replay this line later. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's unexamined familiarity. It lands differently the second time, and the third. Tonight or tomorrow morning you'll be in that same room, same light, same person. Picture yourself standing there while the silence fills the space between words. No accusation, no plan, just awareness. Tribal lines form quietly here. Some people will feel exposed and close this. Others will sit with the discomfort a second longer. Because the final threat isn't divorce, it's repetition. Different face, same quiet room, same jaw tension, same story restarting because it was never interrupted.